Okay, today we're going to talk about friction. Friction is something that affects all of our businesses. And by really any way you slice it, it's a negative thing. See, we all use energy to move things forward and to do work in our business. Anytime where there's friction, that means that energy is lost. It's lost through heat dissipation. And we'll talk a little bit about how that happens here in just a moment. I'm going to switch back and forth between a couple of cameras because I'd like to draw a couple of things out as we go through this and see if we can't find some solutions to how to reduce friction inside your business. So first thing we want to talk about is process, right? So we have inputs. Those are over here. We have outputs. This is what we produce. We have outcomes. This is what we hope the customer gets from the thing that we do. And then in the middle here, we have throughput. And throughput, I'm going to put it as a circle, but in a lot of senses, it really is like a bottleneck. This is the throughput of our business. And things flow in, they flow out, and they flow through. Now, we all probably have a pretty good understanding of what we get on the front end here. It's orders. We turn those orders we transform orders into product through this throughput transformation process. Now, this is going to be labor, it's going to be materials, it's going to be know-how. All of these things are our inputs. And we probably have a pretty good understanding of what we need, what inputs we need to get the work done. We also are pretty good at counting our outputs. We've got our financial sheets, our spreadsheets. We've got EBITDA that we can measure this based upon. Outcomes are a little bit more tricky. Usually this requires NPS scores. So we want to think about the net promoter score. Does the customer care about what we did? And are they willing to refer us so that this cycle can come back around? And we can get either repeat business from our customers or that our customers, we produce a referral quality product. Now, friction occurs between departments. And if we think about this is the throughput. This is the whole organization. But what usually happens inside companies is you've got a series of systems, and we'll call these systems, although you might call them departments. Each one of these does something in your organization. So let's say this is your marketing, your sales, your operations, and your service. And then out here, we might have HR and tech and procurement, legal or finance. All of these are supporting those four things. Where friction usually occurs is right here in between the two departments. So if you're thinking about it like this is where we have the problems, where two objects are meeting and connecting. And if we think about this using this process, each of these departments, let's call this marketing and let's call it sales, and then let's look at our operations over here. Each one of these departments has an input. They receive something, and they transform that input into an output through a throughput process. We usually measure the success of these departments and systems based upon the output that they produce. So marketing produced a bunch of leads for sales. Sales produces a bunch of orders for operations. But the problem is there's a lot of friction in between those departments. And we see this all the time in working with process and process triage in particular, is that the majority of pain inside organizations is actually the result of friction between departments. It's that handoff process between the departments. And there's a couple of different reasons why. First and foremost, most organizations improperly incentivize those departments or systems. What do I mean by that? Well, we incentivize salespeople on what they sell. We incentivize marketing people on the number of leads they produce. We incentivize operations people on the output of their process, how many products or services were produced, how many lines of codes were produced. That is really a mistake because the customer judges you on outcomes, not output. The customer doesn't care that you made 100 widgets today. The customer cares that the widget that they bought was of high quality and high value and served the purpose they intended for it. Now, we don't judge departments that way, which is a big mistake because what we are asking departments to do is to produce as much as possible in the period allotted for them. Now, that doesn't mean that quality is there. It doesn't mean that they've done it in the most valuable way to the entire organization. Actually, on the contrary, many times you will see particularly sales departments, and I'm not picking on sales, just it's the easiest one for us all to sort of understand. Particularly sales departments will incentivize customers to purchase products, and the incentive in and of itself makes the process or the product unprofitable to the company. We've all seen this. We need the volume of sales, so we will discount sales, we will overpromise, we will underdeliver, and in doing so, we're not producing a good outcome for the customer, and we've actually hurt the outcomes of the business. So it's very important to understand where this friction occurs. So we've got to understand what this is. Does this produce heat? Heck yeah, it does. We all know that this produces heat, it produces tension, it produces stress, it produces friction inside the organization. So why do we do it? Well, again, we are incentivizing people on this output. This is where the money goes in. This is where what we reward people on. This is what we judge them on. What we should be judging them on is their outcomes. So if you think about a pass off between a department like sales and operations, sales should not be incentivized on the contracts sold. They should be incentivized on operations, should be looking at the work that sales has produced, and they should be saying, this is a high quality input for us that will allow us to produce high quality outcomes for our customer. So we've got to think about this. Now, some of the reason that this happens, incentive is one thing. We improperly incentivize people to produce an output instead of producing an outcome. Because the reality is that means that they're in competition with each other. Many times these departments, that's what happens as well. They're competing for resources, they're competing for time, they're competing for money, they're competing for the attention of executives. So that means that they are actually in competition with each other. See, competition kills a lot of businesses, but it's not competition from the outside. It's actually competition internally where people are fighting for resources, fighting to get their way, fighting to protect their little fiefdom or kingdom. And it happens all the time. So we've got to make sure that our people understand the why. Simon Sinek talks about the why. Everybody that knows me knows I talk about the how. Sinek says every business knows what they do. Some know how they do it. Very, very few know why. Start with why. Well, once you've established the why, then you can move on to how. That's what we're talking about here with this input, throughput, output, outcome. This is what we're talking about here. This is the how. How does business get done inside your organization? And then where are there these contention points, these friction points that are going to stop you or slow you down in the process? Where is the pain? Where's the heat? Where's all these things that are happening that are causing deterioration of the energy as it flows through the system? So very important. So it's important not just that we identify what these things are, not just that we change the incentives, but we help our people understand the why. So why is it so important that the outputs from sales are high quality inputs for operations that produce the best outcome for customers? Well, because our objective, our capability, our goal for the system, and listen, every system has to have a goal. Every process, every system in your organization has to be held to some sort of goal, not just the individuals inside that. But if the entire goal is to provide the best, highest level outcomes, which generate the most value for a customer and meets the quality specifications that that customer needs, then that means that we have to help our people understand the why. The why can't just be what is in it for them. They have to understand what's in it for the customer. This is a cultural thing. This is what does this culture and company stand for? We are going to produce a high quality outcome for our customer and an adequate number of outputs in order to make money as a business. So it's very important that our people understand why each of these departments exist. And each department should have a why. Sales should be able to write out a why statement that says, we exist to educate customers so that they can understand how our products will improve their lives and bring significant value to them. And in exchange, we also receive value because we provide a high quality product that our customer values more highly than that of our competitors or that of not having that thing at all. And therefore, they then exchange cash with us and give us cash so that we can continue to produce this product. If every one of our departments understood the why, well, what does the operations do? Well, our job is to produce a high quality of outputs that meet the outcome requirements of this level of quality and has this level of service requests or less needed. There's just very defined things that we have to do. So that's one of the things that you can do to do that is process walk these departments. When we do mapping with customers, and anybody that knows me knows I love process maps. So we build these big process maps, 15 to 20 foot long, that shows the interconnectivity of everything that's happening and also provides a list of improvements that are needed in that department to make this flow more quickly. We then take these. It's really important. If I have one of these for sales, I want to sit down with my marketing team and I want to say, my Marcom team, my sales team, my ops team, I want to put all of their maps up on the wall and all of their lists up on the wall of things that need to be improved. And I want to host an event where they walk through this with each other, where they actually say, hey, here's where we get the leads, and here's the type of leads that we get, and here's what tends to trigger them to want to come and purchase from us. This information is really important, not just to marketing, but it's important to sales to understand why the customer came through the process. It's important to operations to understand why and what it is that the customer, outcome that the customer wants. So we want to walk through this process. We want to have some couple of people from each department literally walk through the steps. Now, this isn't walking through every single thing that they do. We use action results mapping for anybody that knows what we do. That means that the lines in a map are work and the circles are completed segments of work. We like to talk about the circles. Those are the results of work. That's the to-dos in the to-do list that you have to get accomplished in order to accomplish a goal. So when you look at our process maps, each one of these circles is a little to-do on a to-do list. Okay, so let's get back to this. So we want to make sure that they can all process walk this together. And then we want to each be able to facilitate through dialogue. This is not a conversation. This is not a meeting. This is dialogue. Dialogue is a little bit different. I'm actually writing some stuff on dialogue right now. It's a very, very important part of communication, particularly internal communication. It must be facilitated. That's the number one rule. And this is an exchange of ideas back and forth in order to obtain a higher level of understanding of what it is that the cause and effects are happening. So if sales starts their process and they start talking about what's happening inside their process because of the quality of the leads, and they start to explain the conversations they're having where leads fall out, this improves Marcom's experience. It improves their ability to produce a higher quality input at the front end. Switch back and forth between these two. Sorry, I'm playing my own cameraman here today. So as they walk through each bit of this process, they not only show the process to the other teams so that everybody understands the entire outcome that we are trying to achieve as an organization, but they also can talk about the pain they're having between the departments. And here's the most important part. They can talk about the consequences of that pain. Now, the consequences of that pain must be aligned to the goals of the organization. So if those consequences from that pain slow down the process, make the work more difficult to do, or maybe cause frustration or stress or cause misunderstanding between the company and customers, then there's high level of consequences there. And those things need to be addressed first. Those pieces of pain need to be addressed. Now, not all pain can be addressed in every process. Some things are just a pain in the ass. It's just the way it is, and that's okay. But what we want to do is try to eliminate as much friction as possible. If you think about this with ball bearings, or you think about it in any situation where friction is relevant here in our lives, a squeaky door, something that's hard to close, what do we need to do to fix those things? Well, first and foremost, we want to reduce the friction. If we can look and find out that things are out of line, we want to realign them. But there also is a point where you just have to grease the gears. We just have to say, you know what, this is the way it's going to be. There's going to be some friction here. Let's try to reduce the friction as much as we possibly can. Okay, so we've talked about incentives, misaligned incentives. We've talked about how there's a lack of why between departments. When I do this, I prefer that each of them write a why statement. And that why statement, switch back over to this camera again. This little why statement that I want them to do when we're doing this process walk as a workshop with teams, I want them to be able to talk about why, pain that is a result of the process, consequences. Pain can never be a person or a resource constriction. It has to be the observation of something that is happening that should not be happening, something that we can stop from occurring. So we now want to move into this next piece. The reality is what we've done by mapping these things out with teams, having these conversations, is that we can now work on fixing these things. You cannot fix what you cannot see. If I was to ask you to put together a clock radio, maybe just an old clock, a little alarm clock with maybe 12 or 15 parts, you probably could do that if you're smart enough. Over time you can figure this even out. Just trial and error, you'll be able to put things together. But if I then was to ask you to do that blindfolded while having your hands inside two holes in the side of a box, very quickly you would realize it's much more difficult to do. So you can't fix what you can't see. This is why process maps are critically important. You cannot fix a company without a process map. It's just not possible. You don't understand how things are happening, and you don't understand where things are happening. How can I fix something if I don't know if I don't know where the problem is? I don't even know how to get to it and how it's occurring. This is why when you call customer service for something, let's say it's for tech support, they want you to unplug it and plug it back in. Like, let's try this thing over. Let's repeat this thing. I have to know how and where this is happening. I have to understand the circumstances, the situation in which this is happening in, so that we can bring resolution. Okay, so now we've talked about you can't fix what you can't see. We want to process walk teams together with pain and consequences. We need to all understand that we're all in the same business of transformation through throughputs. We understand friction. We understand system of systems and how departments work together and how there's friction in between them. Let's talk about that specific friction and what causes a greater occurrence of it. So something happens inside every business when it reaches a certain point. That is that when a company reaches a certain point, let's go use marketing and sales and operations again. When you are small, when you're little, when you're just getting started out, the pass off between departments, I also call those systems, marketing and sales, sales and operations, operations and service, or logistics, or whatever it is. Those pass offs are very informal. One department does the work and they hand it off to the other department. This happens all the time. Hey, do you got any new leads? Yeah, send an email of the leads. Here's the 100 leads that we got. Here's the contracts. Here's what we need to ship. Here's the customers' names and who we need to service and the products they have. Very informal. Informality means that we don't have structure. It means we don't have a contractual relationship between departments. We have a very casual understanding of providing our outputs for someone else to become their inputs. That is a limiting factor to your organization as you grow larger. The more informal the communication is and the handoffs are between departments, the more variation that is brought into the system, the more misunderstanding, the more friction, the more that I have to assume. And we all remember what assume means. It makes an ass out of you and me. So we don't want to assume anything. So we've got to bring formality into our pass off processes. Now, I know that some of you are sitting here thinking right now, oh, we're going to get rid of our culture. No, this is not about that at all. This is about reducing the amount of time it takes to find things out. This is about reducing the stress. It's about making the work easier to do. It's about making things easier to find. It is about eliminating a lot of the key administrative terms and phrases that happen inside business that cost you a lot of money. I'm going to give you an example. How many of you have ever heard words like verify in your business, or status update, or can you check on this? Can you let me know? Can I check it before it ships? Can I observe this? Can I inspect this? Can I audit this? Can somebody just double check it before it goes out the door? Can we just confirm? All of those words that I just said and many, many more. Every one of those words is a sign of something. It means that you do not trust your process. You do not have enough trust in the process of transformation inside your business. You do not believe the outputs. You don't believe what you see. Many times because you can't see it, so you can't believe it, but you have a lack of trust. Hey, can you send those leads to me before you send them over to sales? I just want to take a look at them real quick. But can I review that contract before you send that over to operate. Before operations ships this, could somebody just double check the quality? Can you make sure that address is right? I want you to think for a moment how many hours a day in your business you spend using those words and performing those actions. Now think about that from your entire team. You have multiple full-time people on your roster that exist solely because you cannot trust the process. You have no trust in your process, and therefore you are required to check and double check and verify and confirm and look at and audit all day long. You do these things. The cost of friction in your system is exponential. The reason that you have not found economies of scale is because you have friction in your system. You cannot get economies of scale with this. The more people that you have, the more communication that is necessary, the more that you lack trust. If you've been in business for any number of years and you've started out with a small team, you know that when you have all of your team in a single vehicle heading to lunch, let's just say they're all in an SUV heading to lunch, there's one conversation in the business. When you move into 2 cars, there's 2 conversations. When you go to 3, there's 9 conversations and 25 conversations and 50 conversations. All of those conversations make work difficult because communication becomes more filtered. And we've got to try to remove those filters. We've got to reestablish communication between these departments, and we've got to bring formality to it. See, because when there is formality in the process, when the process for sales to hand off to operations is not, here's my order, place it, but it is, let's go through this and review the order, and operations has a checklist of items. And they've got their 10 items, that they go down the list. Yes, this is qualified order. Yes, it meets the specifications of the products we have on site. And they just go down through that list. And instead of rewarding your salesperson on signing the contract, instead you reward them based upon the percentage of checks that they get on that checklist from the operations team. All of a sudden, you've changed the incentive. Now it's not about just signing contracts. Now it's about giving the highest quality, highest value output to a department so that they can do what they need to do to accomplish the goals. Each and every one of these things that you do to increase quality inside your organization, not only does it make the product more profitable, yes, quality always directly is correlated to profit. Quality and profit are hand in hand. The higher the quality you have, the better your profits are. Now, some people will say to me, well, there's a low quality. Listen, there's limitations on quality, and depending upon where you are in the market, you might not want 100% quality. It might not be feasible for you. You might be able to say, we're okay with 98% quality and a 2% return rate. That's totally fine. But increasing quality always will make you more profitable because it means you will have more trust in the system. It means customers will have more trust in the system. Your marketing becomes easier. Your sales becomes easier. Your operations, your service. Imagine if you produced a complete 100% quality product that required no service. Okay, that would be pretty incredible. You can do that in your organization. Now, listen, I'm not talking about trying to get to Six Sigma here. What I am saying is that right now we have a very low quality process inside our business that lacks formality, and we need to bring some formal handoffs and pass-offs into the process. In doing so, the quality of the work will increase. People will care more about the work. People respect what you inspect. When others are inspecting their work, they do better work. So we want to do that. We need to treat these systems in our company, these departments. We need to start treating these. When I look at this marketing, sales, operation, we need to treat these like a community of companies. If you're using an ad agency, a marketing agency, and they don't perform, what do? Cut them out. Right? If you were using outsourced salespeople and they're not working, what would you do? You'd cut them out. So we don't want to cut them out. What we do want to do is be exceptionally clear on what the requirement is for that department, not just individuals in the department, but what the requirement is for the department. We want to create a formal approach, a contractual relationship between these departments where they understand what it is that they must deliver, and they get paid like we get paid on the delivery of a high quality outcome. This is how we can transform business. We can change business. Listen, I understand this is change, and change is hard, but none of these things will produce negative results. They will produce higher quality results. They will reduce stress. They're going to reduce returns. They're going to reduce rework. They're going to reduce service. They're going to make it easier to sell the product. Yes, there might be people inside the organization that don't really want to be judged on the outcome of their work. Do you really want those people working there? Come on, let's be honest about it. What we want is to produce high quality outcomes for our customers. And to do that, we have to produce high quality outcomes for the people that we work for. And we don't work for the company. We work for the people in the next department where things get handed off down the chain. So we talked about a lot of different things. Wrong incentives, rethinking the motivation and the incentives inside your organization. What and why are you incentivizing somebody to do? And are you incentivizing them at the right moment in time? Should you incentivize them for signing contracts, or should you incentivize them for the delivery of the product or for the handoff to the next department? We need to understand the why. Every department needs to have a why, and the business has to have a why. We need to have some sort of cultural artifact to look through and be able to say, this is what we're working towards. We need to improve the formality of the handoffs of the processes inside our organizations. It's not good enough anymore. We have to step up the game. We've got to make this contractual relationship. Now, listen, it doesn't have to be a legal contract, but I will tell you that there's a significant amount of research out there that says when somebody signs off on something as an inspector, or somebody signs a pledge card, they are significantly more likely to do that thing because they signed their name on the dotted line. Here's the leads for the week. And you hand them off, and there's a little handoff sheet that says, I certify that these leads are of high quality and meet the specifications of the organization. And please tell me if they don't. You sign that and hand it off. Things change. People don't want to sign things that aren't true. We all know this deep down inside. So if somebody says, I don't know about this, well, then have they really produced the highest quality? Maybe not. So we want to talk about a community of companies, thinking about our departments and our systems inside of our organization as a community of companies. We want to process walk these departments, these systems. We want to have a map for each department. We want to be able to walk the other corresponding departments to it, at least 2 in each direction. We want to, if you've got a big process, 20, 30, 40 processes, you've got to go at least 2 in each direction to understand what's really happening. We have to get these maps because we can't fix what we can't see. And then finally, just really understand the consequences of not doing this. There's lots of businesses that fail in this country. 70%. We're the entrepreneurial capital of the world, and 70% of our businesses fail. I'm going to tell you, I think probably 20% of those probably have to do with the fact that it's competition internally. Probably another 20% of those has to do with high levels of friction between departments or lack of formality. We can reduce those numbers. We can improve the probability of success for our organizations by really having a systems thinking approach, changing the way we think about our businesses, going more back to understanding the interconnectedness of all things, recognizing that we're all in the same business, and that's the business of transformation. We all are transforming inputs into outputs that produce outcomes for customers. And if we can't do that more efficiently, we're going to have a really hard time, particularly in the era of AI that's coming upon us right now. I hope that was helpful. I think this is taking me a lot of years to truly understand the cause and effect of process and systems on business. And I really encourage you to take the first step. Go to our website. We've got a process called Quick Map. It's a system of systems map that helps you identify your departments inside your organization. I'm not talking on camera. Let me switch back over. So I'd encourage you to go to theprocessfixer.com/quick map. There, you're going to find a number of different downloads. We're going to teach you a critical thinking methodology called triage that will transform the way that you think about your business, and it will help you understand all of the cause and effects of things that happen inside your company. We also have on that site a system of systems mapping process and a video that shows you how to do that, to think about your core systems in your business, your supporting systems, where there's pain in those systems. Then we have a process called Quick Map It's a very, very abbreviated short version of the 1-day workshop and 90-day program that we have called Process Triage. This allows you to map out a core process in your business at a high level. It allows you to extract pain from that process, and then utilizing the triage methodology of critical thinking and root cause analysis, it drives you to determine how to solve those problems inside your business, and gives you a plan and a pathway to do that. So I would encourage you to check out those resources on the website. And until next time.
You ready? Let's go. Welcome to the Process Fixer, help you see the bigger picture. Derek Maines is the elixir, cutting waste away like scissor. Woo! Got a problem, he can solve it. He's an expert with the process, so for sure you'll see a profit. Bottom line profit. Analyze the work your people doing every day. Expose the inefficiencies getting in the way. Advise you how to automate, outsource, abbreviate, eliminate, innovate. Now there's more food up on your dinner plate.